Dog Motorsports is the latest, most creative, and important invention for working dog breeds in many years, with the opportunity for all dogs, regardless of breed, size, or age, to get involved with. Dog Motorsports are electric-powered bikes and rigs that dogs can be exercised with in a variety of ways, depending on your goals, the area you're at, and time. Virtually no training is required, and high-energy breeds can be exercised properly, quickly, and efficiently without spending hours on end trying to satisfy them, or as I like to say, tucker them out. I'm Bill WooFDriver Hellman, also known as the Dog Adventurer, and have pioneered the whole concept of dog motorsports and have proven it with multiple generations of Huskies, constantly refining it and perfecting it for almost 30 years now. This is something you have to actually see to believe. As a WooFDriver, I travel the East Coast of the USA with my Huskies, doing dog motorsports on trails, roads, beaches, and even in the cities. Check out the latest dog motorsports video coming up right now. Hey everybody, WooFDriver here. Another episode of Dog Motorsports. Again, this is where I take all different bikes and vehicles, for that matter, and make them for the dogs. Not only through the attachments, but also they're motorized. So they're motorized for the dogs. And you check episode 1 where I explain why and how a lot of this is done. But today I'm going to review one of my other bikes, and this bike has been around for a while. I call this Big Wheels, WooFDriver's Big Wheels. As you see, it's got some big wheels. So these are, the bigger wheels and wider wheels are meant for more off-roading. So that would mean trails that weren't as, I guess, refined for bikes, regular road bikes or slightly off-road bikes. This is a major off-road bike, and it's actually a trike. It is recumbent. You see it's got 3 wheels. So the deal with this, again, just to review, recumbent means we sit down, we're lower, even though this is a little higher than my other bike I reviewed. This is still low down, and I'm still on the dog level if I wanted to hook them on the sides. But this bike is really designed right now for the front. So just so you know, this bike has a throttle. Again, it's got no pedals. The boom, or where the pedals would go, the whole pedal assembly, has been taken off, and we've redesigned what I call a mushing bar. And the mushing bar actually fits in the pedal assembly like the last bike I reviewed, and provides the dogs, makes it possible for the dogs to be in front. So real quick on the bike, and I'll move this a little bit more in the camera. This bike has been, if you look online, I call this the WooFDriver's Big Wheels again, it had a whole rack custom built and designed so the dogs could be, and I've used it for this purpose, on the side using a specialized springer I call that's been customized. So right now I've got the dogs running in front, and we've redesigned this. We put a hub motor. So a hub motor means that the motor is basically part of the wheel, and that means there's no chains. Problem that we have on a lot of trails we go to, we've had in the past, and this is experience, chains, and even for the motors, can get caught in branches because these bikes are low down. They can get caught in branches. They can pick up all kinds of trail debris, and they can take the chain off the assembly basically, and then you've got to fix the chain. Sometimes the chain can break. Sometimes you can have all kinds of different issues. That's why I prefer a hub motor, especially for what I'm doing. So the hub motor, again, means it's built into the wheel, no chains, nothing, there's no belts, nothing, it's all internal. So to power this hub motor, of course, you need batteries. I've been switching all my bikes over, my electric power bikes that I use for the dogs, to Ego batteries. So Ego batteries, these are designed, they're available at Lowe's and Amazon, etc. These are designed for snow blowers, for leaf blowers, lawn mowers, pretty much for landscaping tools. And these are 56-volt batteries. What I found is that it's a really well-designed battery, and these are relatively easy to get. A lot of times you can go in Lowe's, you can order them online, etc. Whereas other batteries I use, usually they're real specialized usually for bikes and stuff, and you can only buy it from that manufacturer or that company that's representing them. So it becomes a real issue. Ego batteries, again, readily available, really nice. Now, how'd I get it to work on the bike? Again, I have a team of people, and one of them, Crispy, we call him, is a master electrician. So this is like speaking his language. And he's been doing this with me from one of the first electric trikes I got. And battery wasn't working. I was one of the first people that I know of, at least, to have lithium batteries. Lithium is one of the latest technology in batteries. It's been around for a little while now, but they're constantly refining it. But the lithium batteries then was just in a case. It was probably it was safe, but they weren't as safe as they are today, let me just say that. But Chris would pull out the voltmeter, see if it was getting proper power. He really taught me a lot that I still couldn't do what he does, but he's the master on it. So we've taken these 56 volt batteries, and this hub is matched for, I believe, a 60 volt. It's a 60 volt hub motor. And we found an attachment so we could actually take the power from the battery and feed it to the bike motor, the hub motor. This just slides on here, and he's wired it up so I actually have two batteries feeding at the same time. And again, he's worked all the voltage out. He knows what he's doing with this. It knows what it needs to be. We have this powered now, and it can go for quite a bit of distance on two batteries, depending on the roads. This, with the fat tires, we've been taking this to mountain roads lately. So mountain roads are pretty uphill roads, depending how you run them, of course. So they give the dogs a really good workout. They're big inclines, and they can be long distances. I mean, you can travel a few miles. We found mountain roads that are in excess of 20 miles, but that's not all uphill, but a lot of it's uphill. Of course, you're gonna come down some. So you balance that out, how you run the dogs. Coming down a big hill is a challenge too with the dogs, because that's a lot of incline for them to navigate. And the way we do it is using the brakes. So I'm riding the brakes a lot of times going downhill because they want to go fast, and they can, but I don't. I want to make sure it's well managed. So this bike here, as I mentioned, I took off the pedal assembly, and this is what I call the mushing bar. And as you can see, the pedal assembly, why I like this so much is because this bar is it's manufactured by the manufacturer to hold a lot of weight, because you'd be pedaling on it. So your body putting its weight on it means it's going to be strong. So it can definitely hold this bar. This is a lightweight bar because it doesn't have a lot of attachments, but it fits right in there, and then it hand tightens down with these wing nuts. Really innovative. And we put on footrest for me. I'll model this for you. So it's a little more comfortable like that. And then we go to the attachments. So this mushing bar is one of the bars that I've designed. I'll move this so you can see me a little better. It's one of the bars that I've designed that will, as closely as you can, simulate a dog tow line, which you would see on a traditional dog sled, where the dogs are, of course, out in front, and the dogs come off of the tow line like this, depending how many dogs you're running. So this bar, I believe, is approximately 10 or 11 feet. We've been playing with different attachments to find the best. What we found right now, using a swivel attachment is always preferable because it can't tangle, lets the dog turn any which way it wants. We hook the dogs here just like they would be on a traditional sled dog team. One attachment goes to their collar. We use what they call, it's almost a martingale collar, but they call them, I'm trying to think of the name, where they tighten down, but never around the neck to the point where it would touch the skin. It just tightens down enough to cinch, a cinch collar. Tightens down enough so it will not, it'll prevent the dog from getting out of it, basically. And the dog's not pulling from the neck, the dog's pulling from back here. And you can see this is a stretch line. So using a harness, I'm using basically an H-back harness, what they call, so it's about half the body, because I want to keep the dogs pretty tight. But it is simulating a sled dog team, not using an X-back harness on this. X-back harnesses or a racing harness would be traditionally what most mushers would use. But again, this is a mini version of that and made to navigate most of the bike trails or tighter areas that we would find ourselves on, being in a more urban kind of environment, even though we go back to country roads and everything. And on a future episode, I will show you how I can use the X-back harness on other bars that I'm currently designing now. So one dog here and one dog here, and you'll see some footage of that as I'm talking here. We'll put some footage in. And we put there's a ball at the end just so the dogs, if they would come in contact, it's refined, it's sanded down, the burrs are out of it, just in case. Never happened before, but just in case, the ball will keep the dogs off of there. So this bar is actually all aluminum again, like my other bar, so it's lightweight, and it really does a good job of managing the dogs, keeping them tight in so I can go on tighter trails, and teaching them proper technique for pulling and for mushing. So the exercise they get is a totally different feel than the U-bar, than being on a Springer. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give the dogs as varietized as a workout as possible. So we work different muscles, challenge them differently, and it keeps them on edge. It keeps them challenging their mind. So that's important, and their body too. So this is the WooFDriver Big Wheels. Always important to have water to keep the dogs properly hydrated. And this, we just have a simple tray here, and I use saddlebags to keep tools in and other necessities. And I always have my first aid bag with me for the dogs, as well as lights, because we never know when we're going to be caught out there and it's dark, or a rainstorm moves in where it darkens up anyway, or a snowstorm for that matter. Who knows? We try not to be out there during the worst parts of the weather, but when you're in the mountains, you have no idea what you're dealing with. So any questions or comments, please be sure to put them in the comments section. And I'm on Facebook, WooFDriver, and I'm pretty expedient of getting back to everybody and talking about my designs and how I do things and what I do. This bar can be a lot shorter to run 1 or 2 dogs. So you may be looking at this like, I would never do anything like that, it's too complicated, but it's actually relatively easy, and there's not a lot of cost involved with something like this, because you're just talking about a piece of metal. Sometimes you can find some of this at Home Depot, local hardware store. Sometimes you have to go to a more specialized store, but you can bring it out shorter if you're running 1 or 2 dogs. With this, because it's a taller bike, because of the bigger wheels, trike again, that's what they call them, we had to put, if you'll see this, a little bit of a bend in the actual pipe, because otherwise it would have been shooting up in the air. And the biggest thing here is you don't want any weight on the dogs. So this is supporting the weight, but remember, when you go over a bump or you go over terrain that is not level, you can inadvertently put weight on the dogs, and you want to avoid that, of course, at all costs. So what we do is we angle it, we find the perfect angle. Some of the bikes we don't need to adjust it at all. Some we have to bend the pipe. And again, the elasticity and the way we're hooking up, sometimes the harnesses have built-in elasticity. Sometimes the lines, like we do here, have the built-in spring or elasticity. That provides the dogs with a little bit of sway, a little bit of movement, so it's not so rigid, and it keeps them well protected. So everything I design, I always check how it's going to work with the dogs, and I always watch each one closely. We're usually videoing from my point of view. Somebody a lot of times is in front of me, and then I can watch and see how the different configurations apply to the dogs and how they work them. And the most telling part of the tail is the next day, how the dog is reacting. Is it favoring one side? Is it limping? What possible ailments could it have? That would mean that something needs to be redesigned. Now, we would never, you know, if I see a problem with a design, I wouldn't even take it out on the trail, obviously. I would refine it. But sometimes there's little idiosyncrasies where the dogs they run a certain way, or their gait is a little awkward, so that makes the design a little more challenging, and then it has to be very specialized for that dog. So my most important concern is always the dogs. But with these configurations and the bikes, the way I adapt them, you can run dogs from a puppy where you're not putting too much pulling stress on them so they can develop properly till their growth plates meet and they become adults. Then they can air it out, full tilt. And then when they become seniors in their golden years, you can work with them on these designs as well, because again, they don't have to pull. You can use the motor. But when they're in their prime, they're gonna want to pull, and that's what you have to make all these designs around. And they can pull myself, the 4 dogs, and the bike weight, depending on the ground, how level it is, and which direction it's flowing in. So that gives them the extra exercise they need, and then the motor comes in handy if you're going uphill or they need a little assistance, just like a musher. So I'm WooFDriver. This is the Big Wheels bike, in case you want to contact me directly and ask me any questions. Again, I'm not selling any of this equipment. This is to educate people. I like to close out each episode by saying the Husky is one of the most abandoned and surrendered breeds, because people don't understand them. They don't understand the physicality of them and their mind. They're very prey-driven. They need to be challenged constantly. They're a working breed that's been bred to pull and bred to run, and they survive, they can, in the most harshest of conditions. So if you don't give them some sort of outlet to exercise and to challenge their mind, then they're going to become very problematic. And what I mean by that is, plenty of people have experienced this, digging out of their yard. If you crate them, getting out of their crate. They can sometimes usually a Husky doesn't become aggressive, but depending on if it's a rescue, they can have some aggressiveness in them. And there are all kinds of issues. And people say, I've read comments, and I'm in groups and everything else, and trying to help people on Facebook, etc. And people say, well, my Husky, you know, I walk him for 5 miles, 6 miles a day, and he's still digging out of the yard, and he still has excess energy. So my favorite line is, I can wear out any Husky. And I say that because these bikes give me the opportunity to do that. You can use a regular bike. The Husky can be on the side. I'll show that in my one of the other episodes. It can be as simple as ordering a device on Amazon for $100 or so, putting your dog safely on your bike, and they learn this like it's second nature, because they know how to run, they know how to pull. So it's just getting them used to being next to a wheel. But once they're trained, usually 2 or 3 times, then you can build up speed, and then you can go faster than a dog because you're on an electric bike. And when you increase the speed, that increases their energy, what they're exerting, and then you start tiring them out. So as you can go faster, because they understand how everything works, you can really wear them out. I can wear my dogs out in a mile or 2 when I can go fast, when they know how to do it. So, and you can wear them out, just finding a hill in your neighborhood, a pretty good challenging hill, but getting them to pull you up, using some speed there. So there's really ways. The 6-mile walk isn't going to wear out a Husky. Throwing a ball down in the yard and having them come back and forth, that's not going to wear out a Husky. I mean, a lot of them will look at you and laugh. Speed, resistance, that's what can wear out a Husky. By the way, real quick, there's plenty of ways to put resistance on. So I can have them on the bike, and I can add resistance through a weight vest. I can add resistance by shortening a tether and putting less spring, or a harder spring, so they can exert more. So there's all kinds of ways and all kinds of tricks that I've learned over the years that I've used successfully, and that's why I'm doing this Dog Motorsports show. So I look forward to seeing you on my next episode. Contact me, any questions, concerns, etc. Have a great day, and thanks so much for tuning in.